Hello, welcome to Talking Rubbish Recycle Content, where we recycle the most useful bits of the weekly podcast. Join us as we discuss the process of recycling our waste. Are certain items rubbish or not? And we get to answer weekly listener questions. I'm James Piper, author of The Rubbish Book, and I'm joined by Robbie Staniforth, my far from rubbish friend. How are ink cartridges collected? And as this is a Robbie takeover, I'm back doing the rubbish process.
Great.
1 week only.
Loving it. I can't wait to find out how these are collected. It's not something I've had to worry about because for the last more than a decade, whenever I've wanted to print something, I do it at work. So I'm not worrying about dropping off ink cartridges. But I know it's something that my dad definitely does a lot of this, printing stuff at home for the various societies that he's member of or whatever for meetings and things. So how do we get rid of these ink cartridges then?
So I found some data from an organisation called the Recycling Factory. They seem to be the largest in the industry at collecting ink cartridges. They've certainly donated a lot of money to charity. We'll come on to that. They collect over 8 million cartridges a year. So I just wanted to thank them for some of this data. They were saying that 1.1 billion inkjet cartridges are used around the world every year. And in the UK, that's about 65 million. So that's about one per person, isn't it? That's population.
That's an awful lot of printing, isn't it? I thought sort of printing was old hat now that people have QR codes on their phone for tickets and things.
Yeah, although I've got a printer and I do occasionally have to use it. Occasionally it's like, oh no, I do need to physically sign this thing. So anyway, 65 million used in the UK and only about 15% are recycled. I guess the interesting thing about ink cartridges that's a bit different to some of our rubbish processes that we've had before is they have a value. You know, people want them because companies can remanufacture with them. They can either refill them and sell them as a refilled ink cartridge, or they can shred them down and turn them into new ink cartridges. And typically an ink cartridge is worth, I was having a good look, I think from the websites I looked at, it was between like 50p and £1 per ink cartridge. Now what this means is people want them back, and as with all recycling, it's all about economics. When something has a value and people want it back, then it's more likely to be collected. So as far as I can tell, you know, with batteries, we have like mandatory collection. You have to collect back batteries. With ink cartridges, it's definitely more voluntary, but the system creates itself because 50p to £1 per cartridge is quite significant.
Yeah, that is. I had no idea that there was a value. Genuinely, no idea that they had this value at the end of their life when presumably they're empty and there's no ink left or they've dried up.
Yeah, that's right. We'll talk next week about how you actually recycle them. But I guess the first thing is, before we talk about like charities and the other websites that exist that do it, a lot of the brands offer their own recycling. And I looked particularly at like Canon and Epson. Now, those guys will typically take back their own brand. So I did have this question for you, Robbie, didn't I? Because we think ink cartridges are waste electricals, particularly if they've got like the strip on them, you know, the like barcode strip that they have. So we think they're waste electricals because they're part of a waste electrical device.
Yeah, that's right. And
I wasn't sure whether these companies had to offer a take back or not.
Yeah, I think because they're online, they can be sort of part of a take back scheme. But they can also themselves just directly take them back if they choose to. So they're most likely to be doing it in a number of ways, one of which is to return them, you know, directly back to the manufacturer themselves, back to Canon, back to Epson.
Okay, but those brands, as I said, will only take their own brand. But obviously that meant if you went into like a Currys, for example, and you bought a HP ink cartridge, as an example, you could give back your old one. They would be obliged to take that under the waste electrical legislation.
That's right. And it wouldn't matter whether it was a HP one or a Canon one, Epson one, or unbranded one that fit any of those printers.
Yeah, and I guess that's worth saying because the ones that I found that had value were the branded ones. So if you've got an unbranded one, that's where you might not have value. And so that's where you might want to use that, where it's like, okay, I'm going to go and buy another unbranded ink cartridge. I'll give back my old one because I've got no other way of doing it. And that will increase the recycling rate because 15% is pretty shocking, to be honest, for something that's got value. So when we all use up our ink cartridges, we should all think about how we recycle them. Particularly because Epson's website said that returning cartridges to be refilled reduced CO2 by about 37% and plastic use by 90%. So we should definitely be thinking about how we do that.
Wow, that definitely is going to help them with their own emissions and CO2, isn't it? If they can manage to get their customers to bring them back.
Yes, that's right. So when they get to the end of their life, you could post them back. Most brands seem to have some form of postal service to get them back. They would send you an envelope. You could post them. Most of them were asking for about 5 before you send them back. And that is so typical, isn't it? We see that all the time.
Yeah.
I think we said the same about the Cowpole syringes. People want 5 to make it worthwhile. So that's always a little barrier. But, I guess you could hold on to an ink cartridge for a while. Personally, I'm quite interested in the charity route because, it's nice to be able to donate these for charity. Obviously, if it's worth 50p a pound, maybe a bit more, and that's going to a good cause, that would be great. So I was having a good look at that. So there's quite a few websites. So Recycling Factory is one of them. You could just Google search ink cartridge charity collection. Recycling Factory actually, I think, had donated about £4 million so far. There's another one called Recycle for Charity that had done over £2 million. So there's amazing amounts of money coming out of ink cartridges that are being donated to charity. So the best thing to do is to look for a website where you can donate them to charity. You put in what ink cartridges you have. They will send you a free post envelope or a label, depending on the company. And then you can choose whether to have that money or to give it to charity. They can also be taken to a recycling centre and I think some high street retailers, but I must admit I put my postcode into the map on Recycle Now and looked for printer cartridges and I couldn't find any around me that were high street retailers. They were all sending me to a civic amenity site. So I think a lot of them have actually removed ink cartridge recycling now. But certainly near me I have a local printer shop and they collect them up. So I have routes. The best way to do it actually that I spotted was, because it was through Recycling Factory, was Tesco. So They were saying that Tesco have envelopes that you can pick up in store and you can return the ink cartridges to Tesco and you will get 125 club card points for that. Or you can donate £1.25 to charity. I think 125 club card points is worth £1.25. So either you're taking the £1.25 or you're giving it to charity. And if you don't have an envelope, you can actually use your own. And then there's a little slip that you can download online. I'll include that link in the link tree if you want to do that. So there's a slip you can download and ironically print, which will be frustrating if you need new ink cartridges. Hopefully you've already got your new ink cartridges when you print the slip. And then you tick all the boxes saying whether you want it to go to charity or back onto your club card. And you can just post it back to them. Now you can do up to 100 ink cartridges a year through that method. So I just thought that was really good. 125 quid to charity if you manage to get hold of 100 ink cartridges from people around you. That to me seemed to be the largest donation. I did quite a lot of research and most of them were offering, as I say, between 50p and a pound. And if you go down the Tesco route, the donation could go up to £1.25. So for me, I just felt that was a good opportunity. That was a good thing to do. Thank you so much for listening to Talking Rubbish Recycled Content. Remember to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a review and follow us on social media where we are at Rubbish Podcast. These clips come from the weekly show, which you can find by just searching for Talking Rubbish. Special thanks to our sponsor EcoSurety and all of you for taking the time to support us in our mission to help everyone to recycle better. There is nothing left for me to say other than see you next bin day. Bye.
Bye.